good voice.
Oh, thank you.
Which I know from, class. You lull me to, you lull me to sleep until you yell at me, and then you're like, attention, order in this cart.
I mean, it's got to fucking do it.
Steph Musser, welcome to the Carrie Croft Show.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. We've had to,
pleasure.
we've had to really kind of reschedule and make this happen, but I was determined to get your ass in this seat.
Happy to be here.
And I'm just seeing a big onion. Your head is a big onion right now that I'm gonna peel, just start to peel it back.
Are you?
I'm gonna try.
Yeah, you can try.
I mean, I don't know if you're gonna let me, because man, you're a tough one.
I am.
You really are. So you've been with SOS for how long?
About 6 years, maybe 7, somewhere in that range.
And you are, and for anyone out there who takes your classes, they're gonna just be listening like, oh, are we gonna get in here?
Or
with
they're
Steph?
going to be like, I can't listen to this.
I
All
disagree.
I can take is a couple classes a week, and that's too much. Steph
Disagree.
Musser.
I promise that, like you, don't like you, anywhere in between, that there's interest in knowing who you are deeper and what has made you you. You're like a bagel, the bagels, how they're real hard on the outside, and you're like, is this bagel going to be good? What the fuck? Why is this bagel so hard? And then you get into that gooey center and you're like, oh, you're an acquired taste.
Yes.
And an acquired taste can acknowledge an acquired taste, because I'm the same way. And what I like about you, I like a lot of things about you, but what I love is I know what you see is what you get. And I know that we could have a conversation where you just tell me directly how you're feeling, and I don't have to go 20 laps around with all the niceties and whatever. And you go sometimes to the other side where I think you probably have to pull yourself into the niceties.
Definitely.
Yes.
Yes.
So the question I have first is like, what made you, I know that we're all who we are just innately with our DNA and stuff, but there's also environmental factors. Do you look back and like when you were a wee baby, were you as like, I don't want to call you militant, but you are a stern, no bullshit.
Yeah.
You do not fuck around. So is this always how you've been? Like when you had dolls or trucks or whatever the fuck you were playing with, you were like, attention now, no, move. Like, or did something happen, or is it like a combination of things?
Great question. I think as you get older, it's a little harder to remember what the fuck happened, like when I was 10 or 11 or 12.
Yeah.
But I would say I have, for the most part, always been somewhat this way. There are things about me, the intensity, the seriousness, that have always been. I think some of it is I have 5 siblings, or I'm one of 5 siblings. So for anybody out there who has a big family, you know how it is. If you don't speak up and you don't, make it known that you are here, then you just like no one, there's all these other things going on. So I think some of it was the pressure to be seen and heard from parents, right? And I don't mean that in like a deep way, but just you're fighting for attention, right? So I think some of it probably came from, I found my voice very young, being like an athlete who did all sorts of sports and all of that. Some people could be athletes their whole lives, but they are not, they're still introverted. They don't, come into that. And I think I just figured out a way, was typically like the best player on my team. So I think you inherently grow a captain's type of voice and like that kind of mentality.
That's what it is.
Yeah, I think some of it came from that. And my stepdad, who I'm very close with, is a no bullshit kind of guy, was a tell you how it is. I have a great relationship with my real father, but much different, much more quiet, introverted, different. And my mom is like somewhere in the middle. So I do attribute, even though genetically I have no connection with my stepdad, I do attribute some of the things in me, some of the hardness to him, just being high expectations, delivering chores. This is what we do. This is how we get it done. Like that type of mentality. But so a little bit of both, I think.
Where'd you fall in the lineup of the siblings?
Second to last. I have a baby brother who was not a baby, he's 39, and married and just had his first baby. Okay. But my oldest brother is all the way, and this is a mixed family, so when I say that, but I was 4 when they got together, so this is all I've ever known. My oldest brother is 40. Oh my God, I just turned 41. Can you believe that? That's crazy. Maybe 48. So we're all pretty within 10 years. Boom, boom, boom.
Do you remember, so you were probably on the straight and narrow because you were such a great athlete. So that does keep you sort of, tempered and busy and all those things. Like your instinct is to like drive the point, say what you think. And then all of a sudden, sometimes you're like, ooh, maybe I took that too far and I have to fucking clean that up. Where's the dustpan? You know what I mean? Like, did you find that growing up?
Yeah. I don't know if it was the friends that I had or the school I went to or the environment, but no, I found myself probably being a little bit more empathetic. I think because I was a jock or whatever. I dated a guy most of high school who was also the best male kind of athlete. So we had this really great dynamic. I mean, laughable now, but when I say that,
Yeah.
it's like, what the fuck does that even mean? We were just two idiots, like, who were like, well, you're good at sports, I'm good at sports. Like, let's make out sometimes and whatever.
Right.
But I had these really great friends. Most of my friends were cheerleaders, interestingly enough. But then I was also very protective of all the other people I played sports with who maybe weren't as popular. So I was really good friends with everybody on my basketball team, softball team, tennis, all of that. And, I say that now also laughing at myself because popularity is bullshit. And knowing my adult self would tell my younger self, like, I can't even believe you worried about that. But that's a great, question. I think, no, I always was comfortable with any crowd, any type of person. And I tried to be just myself. And people tended to gravitate to me regardless.
Yeah.
I'm sure there were people, like, none of them are watching or whatever hear this, but who are probably like, no, you were a fucking bitch. And I would say, oh, I was? I don't know. My friends would definitely say that, but...
You also strike me as the person, and I like this too, where you're almost like, when you don't know someone yet, you're really data collecting, and you're like, you kind of have to prove to me that this sounds terrible, but this is what it is, that you're worthy of my energy and in my space. But then once you decide that person is going to come in, I feel like you would be the ultimate friend, protector, and loyal companion.
Yeah.
And that's a great quality in a human being.
Yeah. I agree with that wholeheartedly. And I think I always try to tell myself the folks that may struggle with me forward facing, right? First or second or third interaction in class, or they don't know me personally, right? So they're just judging based off of my demeanor and my disposition, which, let's be real, we all do. And I do that as well with others, definitely. So I will, self-admit. But that is probably where that's a fault for a lot of people, because if you do take a moment and you do strike up a conversation, for me, it's like commonalities and common interest. You will find that you have so much more in common, and or you get genuinely invested in their life or whatever. And I think about it from an SOS perspective, where I have all of these, they're friends, sure, but I don't hang out with most of them outside. Now I have met some of my best friends there, which has been great, but I'm genuinely interested because they have tried to peel back and be like, oh, actually, when you talk to Steph, it's not so bad, right? Some people might still be a little bit intimidated. And I always say, like, you're not everybody's cup of tea, but that goes for everybody, right? Think about all of our trainers. There's somebody out there, it doesn't resonate. They don't resonate. Their personality, right? Does not resonate with that person's attitude.
Yeah.
Because my personality is my personality, right? How you choose to digest that, that's on you, right? So
now I will say, and we're gonna dip into the husband, the husband angle, because I would love to know what that was like trying to date you in the beginning. But so my perception of you coming off the street as an SOS client, when and this is me being a part owner, first of all. I mean, I half own the place.
Yeah.
So it's like, I'm still intimidated. Okay, that tells you something. And then every day I come in, I have to kind of get a read on you, because you aren't one, like, you're feeling it or you're not. So I don't know. I'm kind of like trying to figure it out. How did your husband approach you, or did you approach it? How did that all, like, because you are intimidating as hell.
Yeah. So I started working at Ohio State full-time almost 12 years ago. So I'm about 11.3 or 4 in. And I met Scott day one of working there. So at the time, he had a different job. For those that don't know, I work in recreational sports. I oversee all of our fitness programs and services. at the university, which I have an incredible job. I'm very thankful for. But I came in, my boss was giving me a tour of the rec center at the time, my boss, who doesn't work there anymore, but now she's my best friend, which is amazing, another story. So I met Scott, and then I remember thinking, now you have to remember, I had just lived in Las Vegas from the ages of 25 to 30. You can ask me anything you want about that time. I won't lie about it. I'll tell you anything and everything. But so I'm coming off of that. I moved back to Columbus, Ohio. I'm 29, about to be 30. And I'm like, oh, this guy's like really good looking. Of course, that's the first thing I'm going to think when I meet somebody. So, but it was my first like week or two. So I was, Steph 10, I was like a 3 or a 4 as far as like, oh, I have this new place. I need to make new friends. I also take my full-time job extremely serious. It matters. I am very fulfilled by it, and it matters to me a lot. So I might have to tweak my personality a little bit, or my disposition, my demeanor when I'm at work, right? I probably did that early on in those beginning years. We had the same friend group, so we all went out a lot, and I don't know, we just like naturally started playing tennis together, both love tennis, and I don't think that he, at the time, like, thought I was too much or was little, like, maybe you might ask him, I don't know, but we started dating pretty quickly, like within a month of me working there and hanging out, and he is more introverted, and so I do think it was a nice balance of like someone who can carry a conversation and it's not awkward, and he, we just ended up having a lot of fun. Takes a lot to get into Scott. He's pretty shy, pretty introverted, and you have to, but once you're in there, it's incredible.
Yeah.
So I don't think, he probably thought like, okay, she's a little wild, right? Like a little crazy, a little intense or whatever. But I think overall he was like, I think like she's pretty cool. She's got a cool vibe. She loves sports. We do a ton of the same things. So like, I think he kind of fed off of that. And then maybe as time went on, well, we can get into that, but
well, as time went on, we know what happened.
Yeah.
So what is an argument pattern? Like, what's the dynamic there? Are you the vocal, direct, here's my feelings? Does he shut down? Everybody has their like dynamic. Are you super strong, I would assume, in all of your convictions? And how do you manage that in a relationship? Because you have to soften those edges.
Yeah, I do. No, I probably handle other people differently than I handle my marriage and my family, because I think you learn what is going to ease the situation, right? I know him well enough to know if I just start rattling off and I'm just too direct, it's going to send him off, right? So it's kind of like you got to ease into the situation. We really don't argue a lot. I think now that we have a child, that's probably mostly what we might disagree on, is something regarding that. Because at this point, we've been together 11, 12 years, so we have kind of figured that out. But then it's head to head. So he will come back. He does not soften. We typically will then need a time break, and then we'll kind of come back to and talk through it. I definitely have been too aggressive, in my conversations with him but there are also times when he's done the same. So I feel like it's we've found a good balance. I know I'm not really answering your questions, but
No, you are.
You know what I mean?
You're answering.
Yeah. I'm not, I don't know. Like, he knows me too well for me to act out like that. Whereas when I'm in class or somewhere else and I'm like commanding or demanding, or I have that demeanor, I'm not scared because no one is going to come at me. If I'm at home and I do that, he will come at me. So, you have to figure out a good way.
Marriage is kind of like you have this Rubik's Cube, and you're like, okay, I just twisted it this way. That didn't work out. Now I'm going to move. It's like you finally wear yourself out to the point where you're like, okay, I see what I'm doing wrong here. And this is how they're going to, you have to find that dance.
Yeah.
And it
really do.
And it sometimes is real clumsy. And when it is, it's just hard to dance. So you have to, how is this person responding? I mean, it really is the universe kind of being like, let's just see how we're gonna do this.
Because they're your mirror. Like,
they really are.
They are.
And so are your kids.
Yes. And you get to take a hard look at who you are through their eyes in these conversations. And it's like, man, I shouldn't have said that, or man, I shouldn't have, so you are right. Yes. And every situation is like a different part of the cube, right? Depending on what you're talking about money, you're talking about, discipline, you're talking about, Oh, you're going to go golf for 8 hours? Like, shit like that. Like everything has to have a different, side note, I don't really care about the golf. I was just saying that as an example because it's a lot of things that irritate a wife their husband who's like, I'm going golfing 2 to 3 times a week for 7 hours.
Because that's all, I think golf, spoiler alert, is a code for a lot of other things. Golf is very, it's the only thing that's acceptable to be like, hey, AKA, I'm leaving the house for about 5 hours. I'm going to drink my head off for the, most likely.
Yeah, don't expect
act
me to
like
come
an
back.
animal, smoke cigarettes. I'm going to do all the things. But since it's golf and golf has this like etiquette, like, it's so funny to me. It's like, okay, I'm going to leave for 5 hours and just go, be a dumpster fire.
Right.
Now, not everyone does that, but still, come on.
Yeah. But like, what are we doing where we're like, hey, we'll be back 5 to 6 hours, right? Nothing. So,
Absolutely nothing. So before, I have more about your family, but bringing up Vegas just got me a thinking. Because what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas.
Doesn't have to.
So no, but you were there for 5 years. So just in a nutshell, were you like an animal while you were there?
Yes.
No drugs?
No.
See, I would have been.
It's never really been my thing outside of marijuana.
But you're in Vegas, so I feel like in the movies and stuff, you kind of have to like. So you just went. Give everybody an overview of what your life was like in Vegas, so we can live vicariously through you.
25 years old. You go. A lot of people are transplanted, right? So you're coming from growing up somewhere else, and you're there usually working. Now there are plenty of locals. I met lots of people who were born and raised, great. But the connection, the group that I found. Most of them from Wisconsin. And I just found this little family, a few from Washington as well. So Seattle area. And once you have that, it's great because, clearly I'm close to no one. No, not a single human in my entire being was anywhere near me, like on the West Coast. Everybody is Midwest and East Coast.
Did you just want to get away? Were you like, I'm out of here?
In my profession, it's similar to collegiate athletics. If you want to, you have to grind, right? So I was out of grad school, got a job as a coordinator at the rec center doing special events, member services, things like that. That was my first professional job. And you really have to be willing to go to any university to work yourself up. Or if you desire to for me, I knew I wanted to get back to Ohio at some point. So it's like, I'll go in this great time in my life and enjoy being somewhere else. And it was great. Yeah. So anyways, great group of friends, great coworkers, young coworkers, which helped. You don't really spend all your time down on the Strip. Really, when you live there, the local casinos are fantastic. The local clubs, the local bars, so house parties, things like that, all the normal stuff that maybe young adults who don't have kids do. And we raged a lot. So a lot of drinking, a lot of clubs, including strip clubs, because you can't go there and live there and not experience the strip clubs. It's just incredible. And they treat women like gold at the strip clubs because they want the gentleman you're with. They don't care about you, but they will wine you, dine you, give you what you want, give you a nice comfy chair that swivels around and feed you champagne. So I dated on and off a bunch of people, and those were all, sports is huge, the sports betting. So you just spend hours watching sports. So for me, I was like, this is incredible. I get to drink a bucket of beers all day and sit with all of my friends and watch sports. And then at night I can go out at 11 and you can stay out till 4. Like you could go home and literally sleep for 5 or 6 hours and then go back out. The city never sleeps. So it was a lot of that. I was responsible. I feel like I did great at my job, excelled, worked a lot of hours. So I did have that side of my life that was very important to me. But when I was not at work, I was probably exercising, an hour a day or doing something, and then usually partying.
Did you get exhausted by it? Were you like, I'm ready to come home?
There were definitely moments. Things would happen back at home, and my siblings were having kids. At the time, my oldest brother had 2 during the period that I was out there. My sister had a baby close to the time that I moved back. So I guess but you just miss, kind of being there or being able to be closer. But I got back a few times a year and ended up, it ended up being great. So, but yes, there comes a time when, what's important to me, it was my family. I wanted to get back to being closer to them. So that's when I decided to let it go and head back.
Yeah, all good things must come to an end.
All good things must come to an end. So
let's go back to the fam, because you get married and then obviously you're going to have kids, right? And you ended up struggling too to have your first.
Yeah.
and talk through that.
So just to be clear, and I actually don't know how many people know this, probably not a lot. I don't talk about very, very often, but I think Scott and I went into marriage thinking we probably weren't going to have kids. So yes, we talked about it a little. I would say to anyone out there who is engaged, you need to make sure you're firm on at least whether you're going to try or you're open to it. Being open, like you need to know that about each other, right? And we both probably were, but there was, okay, I got married when I was 30. How old am I? I got married when I was 35. So I had lived, 33. I know, I don't know, 34. I've been married for 8 years. I'm 41, do the
Got
math.
it. Yeah.
So I had lived this adult life. Scott is 2 years older than me. You know, he had lived this adult life of independence. And then we came together a little later in life. They say later, you know, I'm air quoting it later, because it was a little bit later for us. And then, so going into it, I think I was already like, well, my clock is ticking already. I just don't know if this is going to be in the cards for us, but let's just continue to have all this fun, do all these things together, buy our first house together, remodel our house, all on the inside, do all these things. And then it would come up, you know, we would talk. This is probably 2 years in or a year in, 2 years in, or you know, and then maybe we would spend some time trying, right? And then months would go by and nothing, right? And this is without like Clomid or anything to enhance that. No testing, just the doctor saying try. And then we weren't like really in it. We were we were dipping the toe, you know, I wasn't peeing on the sticks yet, all those types of things, right? And then we ultimately decided, I think we kind of came to the conclusion again that like maybe this isn't it for us. And I don't really know what happened or how it happened, but we were out one night and we just like had a hard conversation about, do we think like we're going to do this whole thing from start to finish, right? We had probably a year total of trying naturally at this time. So then I go to the doctor, and then because they ask you to try that for a year, not all the doctors, but some ask you to try the things and do all whatever. So then we get all the basic testing done, right? And it's the blood work and his sperm and all the different things that they can do to just see and make sure, right? And then try and Clomid. There's all the things. So we went through that. Maybe another, I don't know, 3 or 4 months go by, and maybe that's about the time that COVID comes along. So then there's no more like doctor's appointments. There's no more, you know, if you are going, you may be talking to your doctor virtually at this time. And we were just maybe getting ready to like move to the next step, right? And see if we were going to continue the journey. So I feel like we went for it, and I don't know if I'm answering your question, but yes, like probably a year natural, another 6 months, COVID tagged on a couple months. So it ended up being like this 2-year process, right? And so I go in to have a procedure, you know, they get a sperm up there, and this is the first time, and I get pregnant on the first time.
So wait, you did IUI?
Yes, sorry. Did I not say that? So, but it was scheduled, and then COVID, right? So then we take this time off. So then here I am, we're still trying. First time we did it. So journey was like maybe 2 years, but definitely a lot of a lot of times where I was like, this is, you know, a lot of negative pregnancy tests, a lot of all of that.
Yeah.
It just happened to be like delayed because of COVID. So,
and then
they weren't doing the procedures in the office. So finally when they were, I was like, please get the sperm in me, you know, like let's go, let's roll.
Oh yeah. Because I mean, and you can't help it really as a woman, like to get super, I mean, at least I was. I mean, it can become an obsession. Like, right. You know, everything revolves around the peeing on the stick and the next appointment and it just.
Yeah, and I recognize too that we were very lucky in our process. Yes, there was a long journey because of other things, because of our own doubt. And there are other people who have had much more strenuous process and journey in their, you know, want to have a baby. So I recognize that. Doesn't mean it was any different, but
nonetheless, it's just, it's a struggle for everybody.
Yeah.
You know, regardless. So let's turn the page, shall we? Let's talk about Steph in the studio.
Sure.
Some of the shit that I have witnessed with you is like unbelievable. I mean, it's so fucking funny. So you're up there and you are, I mean, I don't want to say I have a favorite. I like everybody for different reasons.
Yeah, me too.
But I do go to you very consistently, and there are reasons for that. You take it very seriously. When you talk with intention. When you talk, you sound educated. You sound like there's a purpose for what you're saying. It's like a beautiful symphony. And I think sometimes instructors, myself included, I think you think people really give a fuck about everything you're saying, right? And then a lot of times clients are just I'm here to work out. I like a couple of like relevant
cues,
inspiration quotes, and actually cues that I can actually So anyway, I believe in you. I love your class. I love your voice. I actually love your when you do kind of get in a mood and you go off, because I'm like, oh my God, she fucking did it. She did it. Oh no, she did it. Yes, she did. Like, okay, let's talk about, first of all, when people walk in late, you hate it.
I hate it.
Hate it. Which we did take a stand on that to say, and I'm experiencing it now having a baby. It's like the other day, Friday. Yeah. Wednesday. I came in 9 minutes late, and it's the quickest I could get there with my nanny, with Dane, whatever. So I can see where people are like, fuck y'all. Like, if I get there at 8:40, I'm paying you. Yeah. Don't worry about it. Right. But then you also have other things, like this was recently, somebody was clapping their gum.
Oh yeah.
And you literally were on the mic. You're like, please stop clapping your gum or whatever. And I'm like, oh no, hell no. But I kind of I'm like, what's she going to say? What's she going to do? Yeah.
But do you know why I did that? Because the week before she was also smacking her gum and someone asked me to say something.
Oh my God.
So just express that it was extremely annoying, and not like, oh, can you say something? But just like, did you hear that? It was so I was like, yeah. And I'm just like, everybody is so scared to say things out loud, and fine, right, but it's just gum. You are in a class with 30 other people. Stop smacking your fucking gum. And then you say it once, and then that person's like, oh shit, and then they don't do it anymore. As opposed to this, we just let it go, and no one says anything. We don't want to hurt
about
feelings
it to everyone but that person. Right?
And I'm an adult, she's an adult, it's fine. I'm like, yo, stop smacking your gum.
So give me the pet peeves according to Steph, being up in the room. Like, what are the things that just put you over the edge? I know form is one. I mean, clearly, you could probably throw yourself into a tizzy over form.
Right. And I think it's the form on the things that we at SOS have worked so hard to help people on. So then when I see the repeated behavior, it just makes me feel like, one, okay, are we not cueing it enough and not doing a good job? And then I have this internal battle, and I'm like, no, fuck that. I have said it 1,000 times. There's no other way I can do it other than going over there and grabbing their hips and their ass and turning them or doing whatever it is. I think my pet peeves are no different than many of the trainers. So, but here's the caveat, right? Yes, it bothers me, and yes, it's a pet peeve, but internally, I get it. I understand, right? I'm not leaving there holding a grudge like that person just is, repeatedly doing this, that, and the other. So it's just a matter of trying to get people to think about it differently the next time.
Or get your shit together.
Yes. Yeah, right? So yes, the being late, I think we are our own worst enemy because the weights are set up for them, the box is set up for them. We have created this environment of all you have to do is walk in 2 seconds before class and you're ready to go, right? Now, most people come earlier than that, right? But I just, when class is, when you have to get up. Now, the whole thing you just explained, right? That is a reasonable reason. Yeah. That's reasonable to me, right? That seems reasonable, but you're on a conference call because you're working out when you're supposed to be at work. That's not reasonable to me. Find another time to work out, right? Things like that where you're manager of your own schedule. Most adults, right, manage their own schedule. So just thinking about walking into a room late when you have the vibe, right? It starts going, it starts flowing, and then boom, door slam, roll mat out, get myself together. Let me turn my watch on. Let me, 19 steps to get you in the plie squat. And I just want you there at 8:30, ready to roll.
Because your energy, and I think that's where people, we're all guilty of it, but your energy is disruptive.
Yeah.
It can be disruptive.
Yeah. And again, I understand. So don't we all understand, the trainers in general do, but when we think about if it were a one-on-one session, right, and we want you to be on time, I think the trainers just want there to be a level of discipline. We are giving up our time to do this too. We want there to be like a two-way street between a client and a trainer and a client and a studio. And I just think sometimes that's taken for granted. That's my personal opinion.
What about and this is a minority, like the contingent is small, but there have been and are some very vocal exercisers.
Yeah, I had one today.
So whenever I hear the vocal, so I'm like, well, I just heard you having sex. Like I know what you sound like in the sack. But that's where I go. It's where my head goes. When I hear grunting in the gym, when I hear, I'm like that you banging.
Yeah,
I just heard you bang.
No,
Thank you.
I never thought about it like that.
Oh,
so
you will.
Screw you. Now I'm never going to be able to think about it.
Like, what is up with that?
Yeah. I don't know. I think... I just think that everybody has a different, like, their internal, they're, like as they're stretching or they're moving, and it's just what comes out. Like, this is their time to themselves. And they just, I don't know, maybe they're not able to do that otherwise. Like, maybe their job is a librarian, so they can't say shit. So when they come to the studio, they're like, let me let it all out.
Right.
Maybe some people are it's their breathing pattern. No, I hear you. There's not too many that it's too bad, but we do have a couple very vocal, like grunters, and it's like tennis, right? Not all of them when they, smack the ball, but some of them do. And it's so funny because the ones that do, like, everybody knows that they do it. So
I'm trying to think of some. I mean, there's got to be a million other ones we can think of. Just the typical shit that you see.
Like if you're going to be in class, right? Understand if you have kids or a situation where you might need to have your phone out to be like.
That's me. I'm so guilty.
Right. And even today, I happened today, and it's like, again, it's just I want you to have that time for yourself, right? More than anything. And you're just like getting, especially for high and tight, the classes that are, you got to just stay in it. Get off your phone. Get out of your distractions. Put it away. You really don't see it in ebb. So why do we allow it in all the other classes, right? Just because they're stop and start. So
I need to stop doing that.
The cell phones are a big one for me. Not having it, but being on it and constantly through class. And then someone will say like, well, I'm sorry, my boss was texting me. Well, again, maybe this is not the time for you to be working out, right? And I get it. You're trying to worm and wiggle all these things into one day. So when I say these things, I say them respectively, understanding that everybody's situation is different. You're right on the form, but I'm much more understanding about the form because this is a learning environment. SOS has come a long way in educating, and I'm not here to knock other studios. We are a lover of all the studios out there in Columbus. There's so many great ones. But I think that's something that, like, a pride point for me is the educational portion and how much we do try to focus on that. And every trainer is different. I'm probably the one that's like way overboard on the cueing, and that's not everybody's style. But
I love your cueing.
I think the reminders about where and why just are very important. And so it's not a pet peeve to see the form. It's a pet peeve when, like, we're doing a standing leg lift, and someone's like blowing out their back, trying to lift their leg, right? Because what they see on social media is what they think they should be doing when we're like trying to teach these slow and really methodical, use your glute max, not your low back type of thing. So those are the moments where it's just like, I'm not frustrated, but I'm like, slow down, right? Today I turned to the entire class and I said, this is what I'm seeing. And I just flung my arm and my leg up and down. It was like a straight arm overhead with a kick back of this, or a leg lift in the back, right? It's tough to multitask that move. Long band around the foot. So I just showed them. I'm just like, does that look okay to you, right? You just have an honest conversation with them. And then you look at the room and everybody's maybe slowing down for at least the next few reps, right? So,
well, you're creating imagery for them in their head. It's a visual thing.
Right.
I mean, I think that's smart to do that.
Yeah. I agree. So I think, not a pet peeve per se, but, it is like a point where I'm like, okay, let's, slow down or tone down and things like that. I do think always taking like the level 2, the level 3s are there for a reason. Again, another pride point of SOS, but I do think inherently now people will go to a 2 or 3 option when I know they can do a 1. And so that's another thing where I want people to like get themselves into the 1 and then have to go to the 2 for whatever reason, go that route. So not a pet peeve, but I just want to bring the best out of everybody. Like everybody has the ability to do it. If you're doing 100 burpees in the front room, there's no reason we can't do a correct donkey kick in the back room. It's just my thought.
I just thought of another one of your pet peeves.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
When someone
There's way more positives than there are negatives.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just checking. I'm just like cross-checking myself.
So we could sit every single trainer here, and every single trainer would give a list of at least 10 pet peeves.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? This is amazing. When someone does a move that's not part of the program.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think sometimes Kim says it, right? Like, you have something going on, just let me know so that I won't wonder why you're going rogue in the middle of class.
While you're
right?
doing like lateral raises and we're doing like, I saw that the other day and I was laughing. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
This is going to, I don't think it was your class because you probably would have said something.
Yeah.
But they were just in the back, just going like this.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's interesting. That's what I look like sometimes.
Right. But I think any trainer at any studio would say, I'd rather know that you're going to be doing shoulders instead of biceps or biceps instead of, you're going to be adjusting. Even if you're like, I'm not sure what I'm going to be able to do, but here's what I have going on. So then we're just not like, what? Otherwise, you're just like making shit up. And this is it for me, right? We have spent so much time on our back end process. We stack the workouts meticulously. And Darcy, Matt, Kim, and I spend a lot of time making sure we're going in these muscle groups and everything is programmed out. So when you come in and then you're basically telling me what I'm providing you is not good enough, or you need a different option, right? And I don't know why, that can just be really frustrating as a trainer. It's just always best to tell us if something's going on, right? Or that you have to adjust. Yeah, that's a good one.
It really is a good, and I only do that, just so you know, I'm going to clear the air. I only do it if something isn't working in my body. And I don't feel like I do it that often, but I've been told that I do that.
Oh, I don't think so.
I don't really think I go, the only time I go rogue is when I dance, and I can't help it. It's just in me.
But you like really heavy legs.
Yeah.
And so sometimes we might be doing like a full body or something and you'll maybe
just do the legs.
But to me, that's because I'm noticeably like, it's not like you're just like, oh, okay, all of a sudden you're not doing a different move. Maybe you're taking the arm out.
Because I'm strong, y'all.
Yeah, but I know you like to do legs. So
because I got to try to work that booty.
Yeah.
I'm still trying. You know what I'm going to end up doing probably someday when I can afford it? I'm just going to hire you to be like my person and just follow me around and just whip me and build this booty. Because I'm going to die trying.
I'm expensive.
We're going to work on it. Steph Musser, any closing comments before I wrap this wonderful conversation?
No, what a treat. Thanks for having me.
And you're a treat too. And I don't tell you often enough, but you're just such a value add to SOS. And I enjoy our friendship so much. And I just think you are a fucking phenomenal human being.
Thank you.
And I love everything about it. Even when you're in a mood, it just actually, I love that whole package that is Steph Musser.
Yeah.
And again, check my schedule and you will see I come to your class all the time. I look for your name all the time, and there's a reason for that. So if you haven't tried Steph, please do, because she is a very, very, just such a good teacher. You're a teacher. And she will keep you in line. Yeah. And if you have taken Steph and she's pissed you off, just come back to her.
Yeah.
Because she really is like a big crusty bagel. Once you get in there, it's the best thing you're ever going to taste. So, you know what I'm saying? Give her another shot, right?
Yeah. And I thank you for hiring me and allowing me to, I say this all the time, but be my authentic self. No other studio I have ever worked at has been okay with me and who I am. So until I came to SOS and you were like, and the edge that it is why it works, right? Because I have a little bit of a toot and it has worked out great.
I mean, look at the wall. One of the core values is authenticity, right? And people say that word, but when you really dial into authenticity, there's nothing that can beat it. Yeah. There's nothing that can beat it. It's like a fingerprint. Yeah. It's unique. I love it, and I love you.
I am who I am. Yeah.
Damn right, girl. Hey, don't go changing on me, Steph Musser.
Oh, believe me, I'm stuck right here.
All right, guys, if you're still following your girl, please follow me on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts. And until next time, take a class from Steph and keep moving, baby.